Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this could be episode 237 for you guys today. And to kick off this week's episode, I'll be sharing my 4 favorite games from NFL Week 14, the slate of games that took place last week in the NFL. So, to kick off this segment, we'll go over the Thursday night game between the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys. The Detroit Lions defeated the Dallas Cowboys by a score of 44-30. Now, this is a really good game between the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys. Thursday night football, at the playoff atmosphere, the playoff vibes were there because the loser of the game between the Lions and the Cowboys, their chances would be very slim to make the postseason based off of how stacked the NFC is this year. And unfortunately, my Dallas Cowboys were the losing team on the road against the Detroit Lions, but overall, this is a really good game. Both quarterbacks were dueling against each other the entire game. Dak Prescott and Jared Goff. If you love offensive football, this was your game because there was a total of 74 points scored in this game between the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys. But in the end, it was the Lions that outplayed the Dallas Cowboys on all 3 phases of the ball. Offensively, defensively, and special teams. The Lions just having their way against the Cowboys defense. The Detroit Lions winning the turnover battle. And the special teams. I think the Dallas Cowboys gave up over 200 yards in special team yardage for kickoff returns because every time the Detroit Lions got the ball offensively, they got the ball in great field position. But the story of the game was how Gibbs dictated the flow offensively for the Detroit Lions. He was doing his thing, running the football, receiving, being a pass catcher. He had a lot of scrimmage yards to help the Detroit Lions win this game. But another story of the game was the Detroit Lions defense doing a really good job isolating George Pickens and taking him out of the ball game. They did a good job double teaming him. As we know, CeeDee Lamb was taking advantage of man-to-man looks and man-to-man coverage that the Lions would line up in. He had over 100 receiving yards before he suffered the concussion injury that took him out of the game. But the Detroit Lions did a good job making sure that George Pickens was not going to be the X factor that beat them. In this game Thursday night, he didn't really make any impactful plays. I give the Detroit Lions a lot of credit for that. But also, I give a lot of credit for the Detroit Lions pass rush getting home to Dak Prescott. If we watched the film, we all thought it was the Cowboys pass rushers that would get home to Jared Goff and have him under duress and under pressure the entire game. No, it was the Detroit Lions defensive line that won the battle in the trenches between themselves and the Dallas Cowboys offensive line because Dak Prescott was under duress the entire game. They sacked Dak Prescott 5 times. They created 3 turnovers in this ball game. The Detroit Lions had a really good game defensively, and they cashed in on points every time they won the takeaway battle or got takeaways during the takeaway battle. So I gave the Lions a lot of credit. As for my Dallas Cowboys, drop catches resulting in interceptions is not going to win you the ball game. Jake Ferguson fumbled the ball. That's not going to win you the ball game. Not cashing in on touchdowns to help you get in position to win the ball game on the road in a hostile territory against a really good team in the NFC is not going to help you win ball games. And quite frankly, the only complaint I have for this game is the officiating. On both sides, I think the Dallas Cowboys got lucky with some calls. I think the Detroit Lions got lucky with some calls. Overall, the officiating was the only bad thing and complaint I have between this game between the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys. But overall, really good game. One of my favorite games from Week 14. Next game, you had the Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Baltimore Ravens on the road by a score of 27-22. Now, this was a really good rivalry game in the AFC North between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. I was in attendance for this game Sunday at the M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. The atmosphere was really good for this AFC rivalry game. But Aaron Rodgers came to play. He was the hero for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the quarterback position, turning the clock back a little bit. I mean, he had 284 passing yards. He was very efficient throwing the ball down the field to DK Metcalf and other receiving options. 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown. Even see him in the corner in the end zone, hit the discount double check, celebrating with his guys in the end zone. But the second half of this game was actually exciting. The Baltimore Ravens rallied back from 11-point deficit in the fourth quarter, but they just could not cash in on touchdowns when they needed it the most. Now, I know there was some officiating calls that didn't go the way for Baltimore Ravens fans, but at the end of the day, it happens to the best of the best in the NFL. But Lamar Jackson tried to throw the ball into the end zone on 4th and 5 in the red zone with DeAndre Hopkins open for the second to last possession that they had in the ball game. You throw the ball to DeAndre Hopkins in the end zone, you get the touchdown. I think Lamar Jackson was trying to throw the ball to him, but Mark Andrews stepped up and tried to catch the ball and ended up dropping the ball, which gave the Pittsburgh Steelers the ball back. And they couldn't do anything when they got the ball back in a 2-minute drive scenario to go down the field and have a game-winning touchdown for the Baltimore Ravens. But they couldn't cash in when they needed to. But overall, it was a really good game, and that honestly felt like a playoff game because now the Pittsburgh Steelers are in firm control, first place in the AFC North. We'll see what happens with 4 games left, but that's a game that the Baltimore Ravens definitely needed to win. Next game, you had the Chicago Bears defeat the Green Bay Packers by a score of 28-21. That was the best game of the 4 o'clock window. I think that was the best game of the 4 o'clock window and the NFC North rivalry game between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. 2 young quarterbacks in the NFC North battling against each other in Jordan Love and Caleb Williams. But the Bears' offense rallied back in the second half. They were down by 11. They really couldn't muster anything together in the first half with Caleb Williams and company offensively. But Caleb Williams brought his team back into the dance in the second half. Had some really efficient throws, was really impressive throws, really threatened the needle out there at Lambeau Field against a really good Packers defense. But Jordan Love did his thing at the quarterback position for the Packers. Went 17 for 25, 234 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. And honestly, it looked like Caleb Williams was going to make a clutch throw in the back of the end zone to DJ Moore. It looked like a crosser route DJ Moore was trying to take. But Caleb Williams could have hit him, but went with the other receiving option. I think that was Cole Kmet. I might be wrong on that. Cole Kmet or Loveland in the back of the end zone, one of the tight ends. But the corner for the Packers just made a really good and impressive read, picked the ball off, and sealed the deal for the Green Bay Packers to defeat the Chicago Bears. And what a week it was for the Bears, and that's how the NFL works. Because last Sunday, they were the number 1 seed in the as I get tongue-tied, they were the number 1 seed in the NFC. Then, fast forward, they are now the 7th best team in the NFC, holding on to that final wildcard spot. So, it's a tale of the tape every year, every week in the NFL. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's crazy. And then the final game I'll cover. The Houston Texans defeated the Kansas City Chiefs by a score of 20-10. If you love defensive football, this was your game between the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. I enjoyed this game from a defensive battle standpoint. But the Houston Texans jumped out to an impressive 10-0 lead at the half. And then in the second half, Patrick Mahomes and company had to rally back to make this a competitive ball game. Patrick Mahomes did that, trying to rally back in the second half, overcoming a 10-0 deficit. But the story of the game was the Houston Texans defense overall. They came to play. Patrick Mahomes was rattled by the Houston Texans defense. They held him to under 200 yards passing and forced Patrick Mahomes to throw not 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions at Arrowhead Stadium, his own backyard, where they always play well at home in front of their home crowd, especially in primetime games. So the Houston Texans really came to play. Overall, the Chiefs just made a lot of critical mistakes, a lot of critical errors in this game. And the mistakes were coming from dependable players and dependable coaches. I mean, Travis Kelce having the drop pass, not in their favor. Rashee Rice, their best wide receiver, having drop passes, not in their favor. Andy Reid, the best head coach in the NFL, one of the best offensive minds in history, had a questionable decision going for it on 4th down in the 4th quarter on their own 31. I think that play call really swung in favor of the Houston Texans, and that helped them to win the ball game. But there was a lot of questionable decisions. There was questionable plays. There were times where your most dependable players could not come up in the clutch, and they were dropping the passes. So now the Kansas City Chiefs are 6-7, and I'll talk about it more, but it doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs. Ooh. But those are my 4 favorite games from Week 14 of the NFL season.